All right, welcome to the Parenthood Revolution. Today's guest is Aime Hutton, and Aime is going to be sharing her own personal and painful experience of bullying and how she has turned that into power. And so I'm really excited to have this interview today. Thank you, Aime, for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's dive in. Actually, tell us a bit about yourself, and then you can get into your story.
Yeah, so a bit about me. I actually was born in Ontario and lived in Pickering, which is 20 minutes east of Toronto. And and that's where I grew up, and that's where I had a lot of my experiences, both good and not so good, that I'll talk about in a minute. And in 2000, after I finished my degree in university in Thunder Bay, I came out here to Calgary in 2000, and I haven't been back. And I wear many hats. I work full time with adults living with developmental disabilities in the community. And right now, because of the health situation, that's not happening. So I'm actually in a group home setting, a very small group home. And how Connie and I connected is through I'm also an entrepreneur with Inch by Inch Empowerment is my business name or my company's name. And there, as a youth diversity advisor, I support and facilitate teams and organizations and schools on how to have safe spaces for girls so they can show up and be themselves and get support on many different things they need help with.
Oh, wow. Okay, I want to talk about that a little bit, but I first want to hear your story because it sounds very interesting.
Yeah. So my story. So as I said, I grew up in Pickering, and going to school as a young girl, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, was good and also a little bit nervous. Like the first couple of days are always that nervous point because it's, new teacher, grade 1, it might be a new school or just new part of the school and not knowing all the kids and things like that. But normally after like 1 or 2 days of that, the nervousness disappears for, I'd say, 95% of all students. However, for me, when I was in grade 3, the teacher started to notice that I was having problems with my academics, with my schooling, that I would fall behind in math and reading and spelling and comprehension and those core subjects. And the teachers decided, and the guidance counselor administration decided to have a meeting with my parents to say, Amy's having some struggles. We want to we want to pull her out of that, segregate her, isolate her, and put her to special education in a class all by
Wow.
herself with, we'll say up to 10, because I don't know how many would have been in the class, but, a very, very small group of kids of different ages, all with disabilities. And my parents said no. My parents said, yes, Amy's had struggles in her very early life. Like another part of my story that I don't really share that much as right now is that I was also born 3 months early. I was born premature. I was 26 weeks.
Wow.
I was 1 pound, 12 ounces when I was born. So that's a whole other story for another whole time. Because though of those struggles, my parents were like, no, let's keep her in grade 3 and keep her moving forward. And, well, can she redo grade 3? Can she repeat a year? And you just give her extra homework and extra help, and we'll work with her at home. And the teachers actually agreed to that. Thank you for agreeing to that. I don't know how all the conversation went, but that's the outcome. And the teacher, my second time in grade 3, that's when the bullying started, because I was seen as the new kid in the class. And I was called names like stupid and ugly and retarded and
Wow.
dumb and a loser, plus many more, but those are the 5 that kind of stuck. And, I thought I was those things because I was called those names for 6 years between grade 3 and grade 8.
Wow.
And in grade 7, I thought it couldn't get any worse, yet it did. It was gym time, and we actually had our gym clothes to change into in the locker room. And I'm in the locker room, and in grade 7, I was actually in a grade 7-8 split. And all I remember were girls coming up behind me that I think were in grade 8, coming up behind me that grabbed me by the bra strap and flung me around the locker room
Oh
and
my gosh.
let go, and I went flying into the lockers. And
Wow.
and all I remember hearing is just the laughter of the girls. No one telling whoever was doing it to stop. Like no one stepped in to help me, and I was all by myself. And when the teacher finally came into the room, into the locker room, looking at me, I couldn't say anything because I didn't know who did it. And I didn't want to say anything because I was afraid of getting hurt more or hurt again. And even from that moment on, Connie, I couldn't go into any change room because I was afraid.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. Wow.
So that's my story.
Oh, wow. Did your parents know?
I don't I'm sure they did. However, I don't remember actually coming out and telling them that, hey, this is what happened to me. I've been sitting here thinking about that. I'm like, did I actually tell them? And I don't remember that I did,
Mm.
because I was afraid. Like I was afraid of what would happen.
Right, right. So then what happened when you went to high school and
High school was different in Ontario. I'm not sure if we're close in age yet. When I was in high school, I went from grade 9 to grade 13. So we actually had
right.
a fifth year of high school, and I loved it. And I was so happy that the bullying actually stopped, because,
Oh,
and actually, I just did a Facebook Live about this. Actually, I went from a feeder school of, roughly a graduating class of 45 grade eights into a high school that was population of 2,500. So
wow.
the school itself was really big.
Yeah.
So the grade 9 students, we all kind of went everywhere, and we're all split up. Really, like I don't remember who was in one of my first grade 9 classes, if I had anybody from my school in my feeder school in my grade 9 class. I might have had one, if that. So in grade 9, excuse me, in grade 9, I got involved in the swim team, which I loved, and I got active there. And, I still had my academic struggles all the way through. Yet, I soldiered on and did my best, and passed, got into university, got to go to Thunder Bay at Lakehead. And, I still had the self-confidence issues and that low self-esteem, because of those 6 years of being told I was all these names.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to somebody not too long ago that, even today, as a 42-year-old, 43-year-old woman, that I have those days where I still think I'm stupid and I'm ugly and I'm, all those things, because they sometimes creep up.
Right. And I think for myself, having not really even experienced bullying, I have all of that. So I can't even imagine if somebody had been grinding that into me for 6 years. So how did that kind of go on through your high school and then your adolescent and then adulthood life? Like, how did you carry that on? And then at what point did you turn it around?
So I held on to the self-esteem, and the self-confidence was low in high school and elementary school as well. However, I had I had a safe space outside the school and outside the home, and that was, I was very much involved in Girl Guides.
Mm.
And so when I was 12 to 15, I was a Pathfinder. And my leader, Tracy, was so welcoming, so encouraging. And she's like, come, like, yes, I want to encourage you. I want you to do your best and to achieve those goals that you want to do. Like, I wanted to be a lifeguard. And when I was in grade 8, that was something I was teased about from the kids in the class. Like, oh, you probably won't be a lifeguard. We'll come and bug you, and so on and so forth. And I was like, no, I want to be a lifeguard. Like, that's what I want to do. And so I had to have people that believed in me. I had to let people help me, and I just had to keep going forward regardless. And
Mhm.
those are the three things that, even from when I was a tiny baby, those are three things I had to do. I had to make the choices to do, to live.
Mm.
and now into like elementary school and high school, those three things, like I remember, what grade was I in? I think I was in grade 12 or OAC, and I was in biology, and I went for help. I want to get a tutor, and I remember the high school biology teacher. He's like, "You're left-handed. You shouldn't be in my class." When I went for extra help, and I was
Wow.
like, "Huh, who could I go talk to? Because you're the head of the department."
Yeah.
So again, I had to like soldier through and get through it and look for other people. And another thing that, thinking of the dreams and goals piece, in grade 9, this is a Facebook Live I just did, that um, I had in grade 9, I wanted to join the swim team because I knew the high school I went to had a pool, because that's where I grew up swimming.
Oh, okay.
And I said to this other kid in OAC who I knew was a teacher and a lifeguard and such, I'm like, I want to join the swim team, grade 9. Yes, I'm going to do this. And he's like, grade 9s can't be on the swim team. What are you talking about? And I was like, what? I don't believe you.
Yeah.
So then I went and found a girl who was in grade 13, who I knew was also, I didn't know she was a lifeguard, but I knew she was in that group. Like, she was friends with
Hmm.
some of the others. And I said, hey, I want to join the swim team this year. And she's like, yeah, please do. And yeah, grade 9s can join the swim team. And yeah, I want you to try out. So I did. And I made the cut. So I was on the high school swim team for 5 years. And actually my school, because where I lived, grew up in Pickering, my high school actually split into two, and they created a whole new area in the town I lived in, that they made a whole other new school
Okay.
that didn't have a pool yet. I was quite happy that I lived in the subdivision, like the dividing line kind of things. So if you lived on this side of the town, you went to the new high school.
Hmm.
If you lived in the old side of the town, you go to the other high school. And when I found out I was going to be going to the new high school, I remember asking my mom and probably my dad too, I'm like, are Miss Kennedy and Miss Taylor going to be there? And Miss Kennedy and Miss Taylor were my swim coaches. Are they coming to the new high school? Because everyone had to split. And luckily they did. That my swim coaches came to high school with me,
Right.
and they started up a swim team. And anyone who was on the other high school swim team, we just kind of all just moved and shifted, and were automatically on the team because we were a new high school. So they needed some senior people to
Right.
who's been there, done that, at least 1 year,
Good.
that could carry it into, going forward. So that was my high school life. I actually really enjoyed high school, even though I had still my struggles with my academics. But I got involved with the swim team and the concert band, played clarinet. Actually came out here for high school in band, came out here to Calgary for a national competition.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so it was interesting. And, we did really well. And I just had, high school was fun, even though I had the stress of being a teenager and the body image issues and the holy crap, at one point I had a boyfriend, and I had school, and I had church, and I had a part-time job. And how do I, figure all
Yeah.
that out? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, so at what point did you kind of turn your story around and kind of face it and heal it?
That was many, many years later.
Okay. Okay.
That was many years later, because in university, I, got accepted to Lakehead University in Thunder Bay, which is about a 16-hour drive from Toronto to Thunder Bay. And, I met a boy who I thought was going to be my future husband. And it turned out that it wasn't going to be. And he was actually emotionally abusive, and he stalked me while I was living on campus away from home. So
Wow.
coupled with, so I had a lot of healing to do. So that's why the healing of my child story, my elementary school, the bullying and such, that didn't really happen until I actually out here in Calgary, when I moved out here. It started a few
Ah,
years later. Yeah, did some. I've been very involved and very curious in wanting to learn around the areas with personal development
Mm-hmm.
and healing myself. And so it took, you know, a few years of some intense courses and weekend retreat type things to heal. And I know the healing will never officially be over because there's always
Mm-hmm.
different layers. I'm in a program right now with my coach. It's all about speaking, yet the first 8 weeks of the program, of a 16-week program, the first 8 weeks, we didn't talk about speaking, we talked about our story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're pretty resilient.
Mhm.
What advice would you give to a teenager who may be going through this, or a child maybe who may be going through this now, to keep going and not, like we hear about the kids that refuse to go to school, or they have a lot of behavioral problems and stuff.
Yeah. And I know school right now is different because everybody's at home,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
My suggestions is though to get a routine now that you're at home, to get a routine. And also, we know that cyberbullying still happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a suggestion, actually more to the parent, is to, and they're probably going to kick and scream and not want to do this, I'm warning you now, yet the tablet or the phone needs to come into the kitchen and be plugged in at night when they go to bed,
Mm-hmm.
because that way they won't be up at night stressing and on their tablet or their phone or whatever. But to the
Right.
kids that are, anyone who's being bullied or harassed or anything like that, respect, and you're like in your 13, 14, 15-year age, is, and this is going to take a lot of courage, yet you need to tell someone.
Mm-hmm.
You need to say to a caring adult, be it your family at home or a teacher that you're interacting with through the online learning platforms that you're using in school right now, but reach out to them and say, hey, I'm not feeling so good. I saw a commercial recently here in Calgary for Alberta that even today, 1 in 5 students experience a mental health issue, and really only one again, out of the people, only one child will actually reach out to their teacher and say, hey, can we talk? So my encouragement and my suggestion to teenagers, I don't know if teenagers watch our show here, yet reach out to somebody and keep reaching out until someone believes you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what would that was more for parents to encourage their kids to do that. If so, what advice would you give to parents directly? If and what can they look for? What would you
Yeah.
have said that your parents would have been able to pinpoint that something was going on?
Okay, so that's two,
Yeah.
two questions.
Sorry.
That's okay. So a few things to watch for if you're a parent or a caring adult, because let's face it, there are some families where it's not a mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
It might be an aunt or an uncle or a adoptive mom, or the sky's the limit on that one, whatever the family unit is. So to watch for your child to all of a sudden be worried about going to school, that they may say, or they may be anxious, they may say they have a stomach ache, they may procrastinate about getting ready to go out the door to go to school. They may be
Okay.
like, really just, I don't want to go. They may be, we don't want to say it, but they might be pretending they're sick, yet they might be pretending they're sick because there's something wrong.
Right. Did you do that?
I might have.
Oh, okay.
although I'm pretty sure I was sent out the door anyways,
Okay.
to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing to watch for is when they come home from school, that they just throw their bag down at the front door and they run up the room and they slam the door and they stay in the room. Like, they show obvious signs of being upset or angry or stressed, or something's going on, and they may not want to talk about it right then, right there. Yet an encouraging thing to do for parents is, knock on that door and say, hey, I heard you come home, and is everything okay? Or I'm here if you want to talk about it. Or asking questions, and that leads into what to do about it. The second question you asked me.
Yeah.
And so one idea that is about communication is go around the dinner table, hopefully once a day at dinner. Or I know for my family, we actually had, instead of dinners, we had breakfast. We got up and we made sure everybody had breakfast together, because after school, as I got older, even like I was working, or when I was younger, I was in swimming or pathfinders or dance or whatever. So we didn't have a sit down family dinner every night.
Okay.
We had a sit down family breakfast. Even to the point where when I had in high school, when I had swim meets and stuff, like I was getting up early for practice, and mom and dad would both get up and we would sit down and have breakfast. I don't remember if my sister got up at the same time, but once she hit high school, she did, because she was on the swim team as well. So having those breakfasts together and going around the dinners and going around the table and talking about gratitude, talking about what did they do or what did they experience that they're proud of for that day. And have it as more of a conversation. Like, don't say, okay, this is what we're going to do now, and we're going to talk about this now. Like work it into your conversation. And just, and celebrate that. Like, say, for example, your daughter who's in grade 6 said that I'm proud of that I got my math homework done. And be empowering and encouraging, and say to your daughter, that's awesome. And what you can do a follow-up question and say, what did you like about it that you made you proud? Like, what got you excited that you did that? And also the gratitude piece. I know for me, I keep a gratitude journal, and kids may not want to keep a gratitude journal, but they may want to draw you a picture of what they did that day. And it's a way for you to figure out how was their day. Right. And just to have dialogue. And that goes into dialogue also means putting the device or the phone or the tablet or the tablet or the phone, put them down, please. Put them down and actually interact with your child. Like, I know some families friends of mine that have a game night that they say, okay, Tuesday's game night. And they pull out, a board game. Or my sister actually, for Easter, the Easter Bunny brought a Monopoly game, but it's a card game. And it's Monopoly card game. And they play that. Another friend of mine with her kids, they have a family cook night. So they look up recipes and they cook and they, do different things together. And that way you can have conversation. You can check in with your children without checking in on them.
Right.
To just have conversation and see what's going on. And then my third point into how to help or what to do is get curious and engaging on what they like. So for example, you realize that your son likes to cook or bake. Say to them, what do you want to cook tonight? Or let's find a recipe together and, get the ingredients and do it. Or it could be like, maybe there's a young girl that likes the sciences and the maths and, the STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math. Like, maybe there's a young girl that really, really likes the engineering piece. Well, figure out what kind, and is it building? Is it chemistry? Is it, get curious with her and learn together about those things. There's so many. I know I just said get off your tablet. However, there, there, and I found them. I was like, oh, I have to go back and like, I don't have any children. I'm not a parent yet. I found this thing online, and I was like, oh, I have to go back and do this. There's websites right now that you can have a virtual tour of, say, for example, the British Museum in England.
Oh yeah.
And you can go virtually and, check out different things in this British Museum in England. Or there's probably the same for like a science center, like maybe the Toronto Science Center has something right now that
Right.
you as a family can go in and do and experience. And I also saw something earlier that, okay, I'm a Harry Potter fan. And I found a escape, those things called the locked room or the escape room.
Right. Yep. The
Like,
escape rooms. Yeah.
yeah. So there's one that's online that's all Harry Potter theme.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's small, yet
Right.
it was kind of fun just to check it out and see what it was about. And yeah, you and your child and you are become like a student at Hogwarts, and you have to go through, this little maze or this little thing to get out. So yeah, there are good things to do on the tablet or the phone, yet so many kids are glued to that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they see so many advertisements or video about a way they're supposed to look. Like I saw a statistic that was two parts of the statistic, that 50% of girls age 11 to 17 wish they were someone else.
Wow.
Yes, because of what they see in the media. And then the other part that goes with it is that 9 out of 10 girls, so 90% of girls, feel that they're pressured by the media to be someone they're not, to be thinner, to have different hair, to have this sort of makeup, to have this sort of clothes. And a lot of the time, the models that are used are not someone that looks like me. I can tell you that much. They're young women that, they might be, I know the sizes have changed in how people dress, but, a very small size. I'll say it that way.
Right.
And girls who may be not that really, really, really small size look at that and go, I'm not like that magazine or that thing on social media post thing I saw. And it's really scary because the rate of suicide of children, girls dying by suicide in that age category is because of what they see in the media a lot of the time. And then bringing in the cyberbullying that's happening now, that there are teenagers and young teens that will say to people, peers on their tablet, on their phone, well, yeah, you don't look like that person. You're ugly. You should just go kill yourself.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. And it happens. And, that's why what I said earlier about having the tablet or the phone not in the bedroom once they go to bed, to stop it. And again, and I guarantee your child's going to kick and scream at you, yet you need access to that phone. Or that tablet. You need to see what they're doing. And so you can keep track, because cyberbullying happens, and a lot of kids these days are on Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to go back in their history or somehow in those apps, those social media apps, and see who they're talking to, see what they're up to. And, there's the whole other side of social media that is even down a darker road about the whole pedophile ring, mm-hmm. and child exploitation and sexualized violence with children. So be on top of your kids' phones and take them away at night would be one of my top 2 things of how to help stop the cycle of bullying, please, and talk to your children.
Right. What I found interesting is that I wasn't sure what I was expecting for the suggestions you would make, but I found it interesting that it's not like, let's talk about the bullying and how we're going to stop it. It's let's connect and
Yep.
be like, have open conversation with kids, even if, more of a on a connection to find out what's happening.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm a mother of a daughter and yeah, it's a worry.
I bet it
So,
is. Yeah.
yeah.
And I know, I just decided, actually, I've put it in the group, the parenting group, that I'm going to be starting on Monday a free challenge for mom, for dad, for the caring adults on how to do our best to stop that cycle of bullying, and what are the four main areas where you as the adult can help your child rediscover who she is.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll join
So
that.
yeah, so those, I put the link in the parenting group twice
Okay.
actually.
Okay, cool.
And so just to let you know what those four subjects we're going to be talking about is being brave. And quickly, I'll just share what these four things are. That being brave is example, I want to be a life, no, it's something you want to do, you're scared of doing, yet you go do it anyways.
Mm.
So for example, you want to go hiking on a weekend, yet you've never really been in the forest and you're a little nervous, yet you go with a group of people and you go do it, and you just go do it and you overcome that fear. You be brave and do that. The second one is being bold. And there is a difference between being brave and being bold. So being bold are two things. One is, yes, example, I was in a school working with a group of kids one day, and this one young man, he blurted out, I want to swim with sharks. I was like, awesome. What's your first step you need to do? And he's like, oh. So I asked him, I said, do you know how to swim? He's like, no. Maybe I should learn how to swim
Interesting.
first. Yes. So being bold is, that crazy thing you want to do, yet back yourself up, and what are the steps you need to do to go do that thing.
Mm.
And then the other piece that goes with being bold is thinking of bullying, and say you see someone being bullied, you actually find that voice and you go and you step in. Because I know that's one thing I wish heaven and earth had moved, and someone in my grade had stepped up and said, hey, you really shouldn't have been flinging her around the girls' locker room like that.
Right.
Like having someone step in. And it's using your voice when you're scared to do it. Or it could be, I know I did this in university, example with a test. I got a test back. I took a criminology course. It was really cool. In the criminology course, the test came back and something was marked wrong. Yet I knew it was right and I could prove that my answer was right. So I went and had a meeting with the professor and explained my case. And he's like, okay, yes, I'll give you the mark.
Mm.
So it's doing that thing you're scared to do, yet you need to do it.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
the other part of what being bold is. The third one is being aware and being protected. And this goes into a little bit of the bullying piece and the being aware of your surroundings and what's around you. So because everything's online, the programs I offer are online, it's not physical in person, it's not a self-defense course that you might be thinking of. It's really, how do you be aware of your surroundings? Who is around that you could, call for help? What do you need to do to protect yourself in that respect? And then what to watch out for your friend. Like what, maybe she's being bullied, and what are some things you need to watch for. And yeah, and the last one is about being a dreamer. And this one always
Mm.
makes me giggle, because it's about dreams and goals. And I don't know if you can see it, but behind me I have one of my vision boards
Yeah.
behind me. So this being a dreamer is actually, instead of doing cut and paste, it's actually drawing and using paper and marker or pencil, whatever,
How
and
fun.
drawing and drawing things out and interacting that way. So I'm really excited for
Yeah.
this free challenge that we'll be doing. And I really hope a lot of your listeners and people watching sign up. The link, as I said, is in the Facebook group twice
Okay, cool.
about it. And yeah, we start next Monday. And every day there will be an email sent out with a little document of some things to think about or an activity to do and so on. And then in the evening, probably roughly around this time, like around the 5 o'clock Mountain Standard, maybe even a little bit later, I'm going to come into a Facebook group that I've created that's actually for empowerment leaders. So adult leaders of youth or those who want to empower youth can come into this Facebook group, and I will come in there live every night, and discuss the day activity.
Cool.
And on the fifth day, it's wrapping everything together and how to bring everything into one. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, I'll look for the link and join. I haven't been in my group today, so I'm gonna have to go check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, quick question. So you work with leaders to empower girls ages 11 to 17, or you empower?
I focused. Right now I'm focusing on the school administrators.
Okay.
And let's think about next school year.
Okay.
Let's start dreaming about September and what they want to do, what they want to see, and how to be proactive, how to have things preventable. And that includes having me, either come in virtually, because internet is a remarkable thing that I can present anywhere. Like I've done presentations for girls in South Africa and girls in Kenya.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I can do everything virtually. I don't have to come to you. In person is always best. However, if technology, travel expenses and such are what they are, and so I can do things virtually. So yes, working with school administrators or teachers. The other thing I do, as I mentioned, is work with girls, of helping them with these subjects. For example, these 4 that I mentioned. There's actually 9. There's 9 subjects or 9 topics. Yet because I want to do it quick and easy, we're going to do just 4.
Yeah.
So, then there's the opportunity to work with me longer and do more. So working with the teachers, administrators, working with girls that coming into a Girl Guide unit or a 4-H club or skating team, dance team, or school, and coming in and working directly there. And then the third thing is actually what I sort of mentioned is, for example, a Girl Guide unit wants to hire me in on contract and come and do that. That's 2.5. So then the third thing, the third thing is actually doing training. I do have an actual facilitator program that adults can take if they want to become facilitators and work in their school, in their Girl Guide unit without me. Like if they want to take it and run and do it themselves, what I'm bringing is 20 years experience of working with youth and girls in many different ways. And I'm giving you everything that I've learned. These 9 modules, actually there's two extra, 9, 10, yeah, there's 2 extra that I target specifically for like the 15 to 17-year-olds. And that goes into like stress and healthy relationships and, different things like that. So a little bit more specific, because a 17-year-old needs to know different things about dating than an 11-year-old child.
Right. Yeah.
So I have the 2 different age categories as well, that I have a 9-week program that I can actually do in 4 weeks. I can split it up and do 4 weeks with the 11 to 14-year-old or the 15 to 17-year-old. And there is overlap, yet there are those different things with the 15 to 17-year-old that we talk about or do that 11-year-old will not do.
Right. Cool.
So those are the 3. Those are the ways that people can work with me and get a hold of me. And right now I'm just, I'm really focused on though this free challenge just to get people interested and get people in the door and to learn about how to help your daughter to, you know, be happy and to be confident and to have her real brave self and what that looks like to her.
Right. Yeah. And it's an important topic. Like you were saying, like the cyberbullying, that is scary.
Yeah.
And right. Like, and, you know, as they get older, we can't protect them as we could when they were young, right? Constantly like hovering around and being right up in their face, you
Yeah.
know? So awesome. All right. Thank you so much for doing this. Where do you have a website? Where can people
I,
find you if
yeah,
otherwise?
they can find me just for more information is inchbyinchempowerment.com.
Awesome.
Facebook is the fan page or the business page is Inch by Inch Empowerment.
Okay.
And if anyone watching wants to learn about and join the group that I said, that's for the empowerment leaders, they can join that. And it is, again, Inch by Inch Empowerment Leaders.
Cool.
You search that.
Okay.
And yet, if you sign up for the free challenge, you get the link that you're sent to get into the group.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for having me on. This is fun.
Yes, it was. All right. And thank you to anybody that was watching.